What's up, guys? I am Mike, and this is the story of the ending of 28 Years Later, the true story that it got its idea from, and what the future of the franchise is going to be. So, first off, there's going to be spoilers for 28 Years Later in this. If you've not seen the movie yet, do not watch this. Go see the movie, because while I absolutely loathe that last 5 minutes, I feel like the rest of the movie was fantastic. So if you haven't seen it, please go see it before you watch this movie. Don't want to ruin it for you. And real quick, also Monday night, we're going to be live and we're going to do a spoiler party, which means we're all going to get together. You can tell us the spoilers you liked. We'll talk about them. It's going to be a blasty blast, so be there. And tonight as well, 7 p.m. Eastern, we are going to be doing a live stream. So we'll see you guys there if it's Saturday. So, okay, apart from that, the movie, let's just talk about what happened in the ending first off, right? It goes into a slower story, obviously, with a more emotional story, a more Life of Chuck type of thing that's going on when Spike's mom passes from the cancer, or whatever you want to call what happened there with her and Ralph Fiennes. But it's really touching. It's super emotional. It's super moving. But there is a piece of me that goes, everything else before this was really cool, though. Like what you guys are doing with the camera and stuff was so amazing, and all those shots and the intensity of it. Can we go back to that just before we get out of here? That would be super cool. If I could just have one more dose of that. Well, be careful what you wish for. He's eating a big old piece of fish. Got him a fish fillet, McDonald's, real nice. And here's a zombie, excuse me, an infected. And it's a cool scene. It starts chasing him, and then he runs away from him. So far, so good. We know we're going to get something intense. We know the ending is coming soon. And then he runs into a bunch of rocks. He's stuck. And a corn roadie from 1994 shows up in a fucking tracksuit. Seriously, right? And then with his group of Power Ranger style, Die Antwoord, corny, whatever. And is like, would you like me to help you? And then, terrible at accents, sorry, but the guy has an upside down cross, right? And then, as you know, they go Angel Grove on the zombies, and they're like doing spin backflips. The Teletubbies song comes on, and it's a metal version of it, which is awesome. It's awesome. I love that. Don't get me wrong. That's cool. The movie opens with the Teletubbies, and then it ends with that theme song going metal. That part was cool, but it honestly felt like I was watching the Power Rangers fight the putty guys, and that's been the joke on the internet for sure. And that's honestly spot on, exactly what it felt like, and it was so corny the way it was shot. I have no understanding of why you would shoot it like that. Why did it have to be so corny, like, and cheesy? Like, it just did not match the rest of the movie that had come before it. It was a masterpiece up to that point. But anyways, I talked about that in my review, my rant about it. So I won't go further. But God damn it, that was dumb. They kill them all. They kill one by turning him upside down, which is, I think, a callback to the infected that Spike and his dad found in the warehouse earlier in the film, the one that was getting picked apart by the crow. And then you saw all this imagery before, right? It's all on all the walls, basically hailing this character called Jimmy, which is hilarious to me, by the way, because it just reminds me of Green Day, Saint Jimmy, which is kind of that whole idea. And that entire album actually is a concept album that involves the character of Saint Jimmy. Anyways, yeah, this harkens back to the beginning of the movie, and we're assuming that it's the kid in the beginning of the movie. There's a little blonde kid, Jimmy, and all of his sisters, and they're the ones watching Teletubbies, and then their parents get eaten and attacked, and he goes to the church hall, and that's his father, is the priest, and he's the one being all crazy that's like, come to me, my children, eat from the bosom of my crack, and like literally gets his crack eaten and everything else, by the way, chewed on by the infected, and then it's just an absolute crazy person, which, by the way, if I saw that too, I'd also be like, yeah, I don't think religion's for me, Daniel, and I think that's probably a good time for it to go away in this landscape, if that's how we're going to react to small children being eaten by infected, and turned into rage virus monsters. But the kid escapes, little Jimmy escapes into a little hatch, and those are really convenient in this movie, by the way, several times. And you hear him say, God, why have you forsaken me? Which is sort of a corny, I think, line right there. Like a little kid, I feel like, wouldn't say that exact line. System of a Down lyric. But clearly this is Jimmy now, and he's got the upside down cross. He's totally against, and I can't really blame him after what he experienced, for sure. So that's a starter thing, and I think that's why he had they're infected hanging upside down. But yeah, let's talk about where they got those tracksuits, all that jewelry, the Spice Girls shit that they were wearing. They look fucking ridiculous in. God, it's stupid. But there's several mentions earlier in the film when he's hunting with his dad where they mention, hey, the communities that we don't go to. I imagine it's unsafe because the buildings are too packed together. There's too much going on. There's crazy people like the Jimmies. But I imagine they get all these clothes and stuff probably because they just basically went through the suburban towns and just took whatever they wanted. After watching the movie, I came home and I did not know any of this I'm about to tell you. I've been reading about it and God, it's been awful. But what I'm about to tell you is that this character of Jimmy, played by Jack O'Connell, didn't recognize him actually. Had no idea it was him. But honestly, I was just so guffawed at how fucking dumb this was that I couldn't really concentrate on anything. But this character, I did not know this until people in the comments told me, is based on a true crime story of a man named Jimmy Savile who just... That name sends rage and all sorts of feelings through people in the UK and British folks and people who know about that story and live through it, because it's a damning thing on the community and the police, it feels like, and the BBC over there. And here's the story of it. Basically, you got this guy, Jimmy Savile. Who gives a fuck if I get his name wrong? He's a piece of shit human being. But there's a 2-part Netflix documentary on this guy. There's documentaries about him also. It's all out there on the internet, so I'll be brief. But basically, he started as a DJ at Radio Luxembourg, and then became the host of a show called Top of the Pops, which was a huge show down there, and kind of got famous doing that and other BBC shows as a host and other various things, and became very wealthy doing this. He had his own show called Jimmy Fix It For Me. At least that was the basis of the show, where kids would write him in letters and cute stuff. Hey, my little sister, can you send her to the moon? And he would say, Jimmy fixed it for you, and they'd get prizes and all this stuff. Yeah, but the basic story here is, we got a huge piece of shit, a wolf in sheep's clothing, and a terrible haircut, and awful fashion sense. And he's working with children. Great, grand, wonderful. And that's how these things happen, but raises a lot of money through charities and gets all sorts of, gets in the hearts and souls of people through all these charities that he worked with, and tons of them, raising money for this and that all over Europe, all for the UK, and became super famous, a household name doing this. And to me, when you mix that much charity and that much money with the amount of access he's about to get and kids and whatnot, I mean, you better hope it's a decent human being, because otherwise it could be the fucking Antichrist. In 1968, he requested to become a porter at the Leeds General Infirmary. Now, this is a person who transports around patients here and there, which is totally weird for this guy to want to do that for whatever reason. But hey, charity, right? Don't question it. Don't question it. Just stay in the airport for 24 straight hours and get the Cadillac. So he kept doing charities and cutting his hair in horrible ways and raising money for multiple hospitals. And by 1987, he was on a management board for a psychiatric hospital. Ultimately, he bought his way to a board overseeing management, keys to his own rooms, carte blanche, basically to do whatever the fuck he wanted. Psychiatric hospital, patients, in anything. He would go to a girls' school and just pick up the girls from the girls' school and take them on rides. Everybody's, hey, it's fucking Santa Claus over here, and just gave him the keys to the kingdom and didn't question anything. Partly probably because there was a lot of money flowing from him to these businesses and organizations, and who dare question the man who giveth the money? He was friends with royalty in Britain, including Margaret Thatcher. He was knighted by the king and the Pope in 1990, and Prince Charles would come to him for advice. For Christ's sake, dude was fucking Elvis. Finally, rumors of underage girls began to swirl and became a running pop culture kind of joke, but he would deny it and then it would go away. Finally, in 2011, he died, and at this point, still nothing concrete, just those rumors that were out there since the early 2000s. And by the way, I just want to reference here, for sake of the conversation we're about to have, 28 Days Later takes place right at the beginning of the 2000s, right? I don't think they officially ever say it, but it was 2002 when the movie came out. And I think it's generally understood that 28 Days Later, that first infection takes place right around that time of the early 2000s. Moving forward, he dies in 2011. Treated like royalty again, big funeral, everybody comes to it, TV specials, huge fuss, all of it. Then, Finally, a BBC program called Newsnight put together an investigation about alleged sex crimes that Savile had committed, and they were suddenly told out of nowhere that they couldn't air it by the company. They pulled the plug on the project completely, which is super sketchy, huh? Yeah, it fucking is. And then finally, after a documentary called Exposure featured accusations of abuse from multiple women, the BBC launched an official investigation, and then their report, which came a prompt 3 fucking years later, multiple years after he's dead, by the way, and can pay for these actual crimes, they revealed the truth that so many people had feared before, and that's that Jimmy Savile, beloved Jimmy Savile, had sexually assaulted and abused dozens of people just on BBC grounds alone. So it's at this point the police went, I just got a hunch that maybe we should fucking do something. I don't know. This guy could have been a piece of shit. Maybe we should investigate. So they unearthed, in their investigation, 450 fucking allegations of abuse, sex abuse against women, against young women, against women in the hospital that he worked at and could take advantage of. Where he had keys to every room. He had his own rooms. He had carte blanche to do whatever he wanted because he was pumping money into these institutions. And they basically said, hey, fuck it. We'll close our eyes and we'll let you just... It's disgusting. Like, where in the fuck did these 400 allegations just magically pop up from for these police, by the way, during this investigation? They have a magic filing cabinet in the back where they put them and they call them keepers? Like, what the fuck is going... Like, I didn't know about any of this. I did not know about any of this. It's 450. It's like, by the way, we investigated. And it's a good thing that we did. The fuck? And again, there's a lot of documentaries and stuff to get into. I really don't know the specifics of it all. I will get into it and find out, but I'm just learning of this. But this is the character, for some reason, that 28 years later, Danny Boyle and Alex Garland decided to obviously use inspiration for. Jimmy and the Jimmies, the fucking Wiggles. Anyway, this was so bad that a year after the death, his family literally had his gravestone removed. They removed him, his gravestone. They stripped him of all of his honorary titles that they had given, which, probably wouldn't have happened if he was still living and they could still continue to take money from him. But now that they can't, they said, yeah, I think we'll take those things away now while he's 6 feet in the fucking grave. But that's the guy, and the Jimmy Savile guy that clearly they are weirdly using for inspiration for this character, who's, God, you at least hope is going to turn out to be an obvious villain. Because that'd be really questionable, Danny Boyle and Alex Garland for sure. But yeah, so moving past the shell shock of all that and the confusion about it, what does it mean? A, it was stupid. B, it didn't fit. C, it's tied to this piece of shit. Why? Take a look at some interviews that Danny Boyle and Alex Garland did together.
The whole trilogy is in some ways about looking back and looking forwards. And the thing about looking back is how selective memory is.
So Alex Garland says that the whole entire trilogy, should they be allowed to make it with the final film, is all about looking back and looking forwards. Back into old worlds. Should we stay and make this the same old world that we're doing now, or try to make better new ones? And you've got these different factions going on throughout it. And that makes sense when you look at Spike's mom and the brain cancer that she had, right? She was kind of going back in time. Her brain was all over the place. There are so many threads of this throughout the movies. Think about all those shots they kept showing us of those old time wars, back in the day. There's a thread that they're really trying to land involving the future, the past. What does it all mean? And in this exact interview, Boyle kind of sheds light on that too. And he says,
as much to do with pop culture as he is to do with sportswear, to do with cricket, to do with the honours system.
Now let's go back to the timeline of this franchise. 28 Days Later, again, took place right around 2002, right? And this is right around the time where nothing had been proven about this character yet. Had this been real life, Britain and the world would have maybe never found out officially that Jimmy Savile was this huge culture-changing piece of shit. So I guess maybe this Jimmy character just found a father figure in Jimmy Savile when the world ended basically for them, and they don't know about any of that stuff. And after what happened with his dad, became obsessed with him. And that's the idea of what these people are doing. Maybe he's literally a character in this world that this character was obsessed with, and that's why he dresses like him and does all this stuff. That's a possibility for sure. I was really genuinely hoping that one of the most disappointing things about the end of this film for me was that it's not just this film that ended that way. Does that mean the next film is going to follow these weirdos? These weird ass Spice Girls around? I was really hoping not. You know, maybe they die in the next scene or we just don't focus on them again. Because I would hate, if my Bone Temple excitement just went way down. My Bone Temple has fallen, you could say, for sure, if that's the case. And apparently it is, because in another interview, Danny Boyle says, he said, when I read the screenplay that Alex sent, there were these characters that appeared at the end of the film called the Jimmies. The Wiggles. It's shocking. It returns you to the fact this is a horror film, but not in the way you might be expecting. They go on to dominate the second film. I thought this is the most original piece of writing since Clockwork Orange. They go on to dominate the second film. He says it right there. Second film, these fuckers. I'm so bummed to hear that. I am just so bummed to hear that. Now, maybe they won't be so obnoxious and over the top without that silly, zany directing we were doing there with the backflips and shit like that. And I get that they symbolize a complete different way of life than what Spike came from. You know, it was all we kill to eat. Everything's very grim, but we're trying to be good people, but we're also kind of kooky. And on this side, they're out there just having fun and doing tricks and killing zombies and whatever. And it is coming of age story. This kid never got to have a regular teenager. So maybe he learns to have fun with these guys, and it's about that. If as long as it's not that fucking zany and weird, maybe it can work. I don't know, but I'm still really bummed to hear that. But there's your future answer right there. The second film's going to be dominated by these characters, and I wonder how Cillian Murphy and Jim's character, when he shows up, is gonna, you know, I wonder how he's gonna fall into this story, and maybe he can save it. I don't know. The fact that the second movie's not even going to be directed by Boyle and Garland is wild. But again, maybe in the script, that idea reads better than what Boyle put on the screen with that zany little 5 minutes there. Talk about, I mean, just a perfect film up to that point, in my opinion. But yeah, the idea of clinging on to things and recreating them as this image for followers is something woven in the fabric of the story they're trying to tell. And I guess to really have clarity on it, we're just going to have to wait and watch the films. And fingers crossed, I've got my fingers crossed that this doesn't completely fuck this franchise and ruin it. I gotta have some faith, man. These guys are so good at what they do. Is this going to be a Rob Zombie Halloween 2 situation? Or are they going to rise from the ashes to that last 5 minutes and go back to the form of the perfect film that was before it and the great 2 films that came before that? What do you guys think? Comment down below. Let me know. And join us on Monday night. And let's talk about it live together. I love your fucking faces. I hope you guys have an amazing day. And I'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern as well.